Positional versatility, great physical tools, and a sky-high ceiling makes Arvell Reese an elite draft prospect.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Arvell Reese, the demolition derby player for the Ohio State Buckeyes defense, that versatile defender that does a little bit of everything. We're going to break down the pros, the cons, explain the grade, and give you our NFL comps for him. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Keith, like I always ask you, when it comes down to these prospects, the A trait. But before that, guys, 6'4", 245, 8 sacks, 6 QB hits, 13 hurries, over 50 tackles on the season this year. Arvell Reese plays linebacker. He plays edge defender. He plays overhang. Keith, what is his A trait when you watch the film on Arvell Reese?
Yeah, so looking at it, DP, A trait for Arvell Reese, it has to be the versatility that I think people are going to discuss, right? And it's also the upside portion of Arvell Reese, meaning that you talked about it, 6'4", 240 pounds, right? 245 pounds. And it's the fact that you watch him play stack linebacker, but then also he goes to the edge, right? And then he rushes off of the edge, but then also he's a linebacker. You can line up over a guard and he can blitz. But then also, I think if you went back the very first game of the year at Texas, he was the guy that they utilized to spy Arch Manning, right? And he did an effective and efficient job at it. So the A trait for Arvell Reese is the versatility portion of his game, meaning that you can put him in multiple different positions, and he appears to have the athleticism and the what am I trying to say? He has the athleticism and the physicality portion down to be able to be effective at all of those different alignments.
No, 100% agree with that. I think his versatility is what sparks some of the comps and the top tier comp that he has for a lot of people, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. I think for me, when I look at it, Keith, you brought up physicality, and I go that blend of physicality, play strength, and the athleticism. Like those things combined are what can make him a special prospect, in my opinion. You talked about rushing him ahead of guards. There's not many 6'4", 245 linebackers that are putting guards on their backside from just rushing the passer. He plays with so much strength and physicality in his frame. The traits, shout out to my guy Lance Zerline at NFL.com. Lance loves him, and he's talked about the fact that he believes that he has those rare traits to project at the edge rush position. I think for me, that versatility is going to be big because he plays linebacker well. He's instinctive. I like his vision, how he sees the field. But then when you talk about playing the run, I think that Texas game, he's filling run lanes and meeting the running back in the hole, and the running back has nothing to offer because he's such a powerful player. And then you talking about on third downs, lining him up on the edge. And then I'll say the same thing I said for Ruben Bay, I'm going to say for and David Bailey, I'm going to say for Arvell Reese. Is he that 90-degree angle, just walk like on that slanted angle and walk around the edge like Von Miller? No, he's not. But he has more than enough bend to get to the around the outside. And then what we talked about with David Bailey and why I have him rated higher than Bailey is simply because of the fact that he has the power to run through you. He can run through the chest of offensive linemen and offensive tackles and really manhandle some guys. And then he deconstructs blocks well too. You climb into that second level. Don't think it's sweet getting to that second level and you get to Arvell Reese, because he's going to shoot his hands. He's going to lock out. He's going to displace you. He's going to disengage and get to the football. But also, Keith, like you talked about that spying ability. I think that's a big thing because he spied Arch. Then you go back to the Big Ten championship game. Again, people, if I told you guys months ago, hey, Matt Patricia's going to take his two most athletic defenders and spy Fernando Mendoza, you would call me a crazy man. But you go watch the film, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese spied Fernando Mendoza to make sure he didn't break, contain, and use his legs in the Big Ten championship game. Again, in the league that is not starting, but a league that is relying a lot on athletic quarterbacks, you a guy that can give you that versatility to, hey, even if he's playing predominantly like your edge rusher, you're like, you know what? This dude has been killing us with his legs. We're going to drop you off. We're going to drop you off. We're going to drop you into the shallow. He's not going to see it. He's going to think he can get out of there, not identify you, and then you can go ahead and track him and make the sack.
Yeah, no, I'm with that, DP, and I think along with the spine ability is, to me, and this is something that I love to see in defenders, is closing speed, right? And ability to track down the ball carriers, but you see them consistently accelerate. Like there's sometimes you watch defenders, right? And it seems, and this is a term that I had a defensive line coach at LSU use, when he talked about being a same speed player, right? Like how they take off is how they finish, right? It never looks as though they're gaining ground. Arvell Reese looks like a lion in pursuit, right? He's going to get them, right? Like he's on the hunt. I think that's the best way to put it. And he's a quick accelerator and has closing speed to the ball carrier, which is Arvell Reese. And that's something I like. And as far as being a sideline to sideline player, right? I think that you can put him in, and you talk about the versatility, is that you can put him at the Mike linebacker position and he can attack from B gap to B gap. But also if it's a fast flow play to the outside of his outside zone, I could very well see him making it. And as soon as that running back think he's going to run front side and then cut back a little bit, right? Arvell Reese is there to blow some stuff up. He has that type of ability to him, and he has the type of quick acceleration, explosiveness out of that stance, right? The linebacker position stance, not talking about the edge rusher, but out of the linebacker position stance, when he opens up his gate and gets going, he can cover sideline to sideline. It kind of reminded you, and I don't want to go here in like as far as in depth of this capacity, but seeing a big big linebacker like that, we just don't have those as many as this game has gotten smaller, right? And I think the prospect, I wasn't expecting to say this, so I'm trying to make sure that there wasn't anybody else that came out in between this time. But it reminds me of Jaylon Smith when he came out of Notre Dame, years ago. Before, and obviously that was before the gruesome knee injury. But a big linebacker like that had that explosive closing speed, physical demeanor, that type of range. It reminds me somewhat of that.
I like that, and yeah, Taylor Decker, I'll never forgive you for what you did to Jaylon Smith. You know what I mean? Because Jaylon was that was my guy. I was like, yeah, I had my mind set that Jaylon Smith was going to be just one of the best. I mean, he was still a good player, but he wasn't what he could have been if it wasn't for that.
No, it was so, he had so much to overcome. We're talking about nerves and all of that. Like I think people talking about like he had drop foot at one point. It was just so many things. He was still a shell in himself, right? Which he was able to still put out a couple good years, but still a shell in himself.
That range and speed at Notre Dame was different at the linebacker. And he was a violent physical player and striker to the ball carrier as well. I like that call out in terms of, what we see from Arvell Reese. And I think just overall, like this is a player. The main thing is going to be just like, what do you want to play him? Like, you know what I mean? As a defensive coordinator, what's your biggest need? If you're good at edge, I'm fine drafting that linebacker. But if you got a good at linebacker, I absolutely want him on the edge. I think he's a high ceiling player, but I also like his floor. I don't think this is a guy that we say, he's got a low floor and a high ceiling because it's all traits. It's not all traits with Arvell Reese.
Yeah, what I want to stay away from real quick before we transition, I want to stay away from the Isaiah Simmons comp for him because I think people, as we unfolding the truth about Arvell Reese, I think people are going to go to the extremes, right? Because that's what happens. Nobody likes to play in the middle, right? Everybody's either all the way left or all the way right, right? It can like nobody is lukewarm. You're either hot or cold on every single topic about every single thing. So I don't want people to go to that extreme, because I agree with you that Arvell Reese has a high floor. Like I feel like I know it. Like, okay, at the very worst, I'm getting this, right? And I feel like at the very worst, he's a first round prospect, right? Now, if he produces like a top 5 or a top 2 pick, then that's another conversation to have. But I feel like at the very worst, compared over the last 5 to 10 drafts, he's a first round prospect. But DP, let's do this, man. Like we said, we're gonna peel back the onions, right? We're gonna unfold some things in regards to Arvell Reese, right? What are the cons? What are the things he needs to improve on? What are the things that we have concerns about overall? We're about to discuss that coming up next.
Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering 200 specialties, from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL and find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals when you use FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Guys, again, visit FanDuel.com to get started and use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Breaking down and discussing the concerns about Ohio State star linebacker / edge hybrid Arvell Reese. That's what we're getting into next. But thanks for being an everydayer with us. If you want the show ad-free, check out the Everydayer Club. And guys, just go to LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com to become a member. Arvell Reese, the concerns, Keith. I think, again, I'm cool with him playing linebacker. I think he could play linebacker in the NFL. I think he'd be a 3-down linebacker for sure. And like you talk about, he's got the speed, the burst, the range, the athleticism is there. With his body type, I'll use the phrase muscle bound. And anytime I see a guy that's muscle bound, I look for any movement restrictions. He's got some hip tightness laterally. Like, he doesn't cover as much ground from a lateral agility standpoint. So for me, it's like, hey, like at playing linebacker, especially so much stretch and zone in the NFL with the run game, I always, especially against defending that, you got to stay square in your pursuit to the ball. The moment you flip your hips and you overcommit, these NFL, heck, we watched it in the Super Bowl. Kenneth Walker III for the Super Bowl MVP. You got running backs that will plant that foot and cross and cut back across the grain, jump cut, and just get into those creases that you left vulnerable and available. So that limited range in terms of just laterally, I feel like he's a guy that if he flips his hips one direction, it takes a little bit of time to flip it. It's not going to be instantaneous where he could just flip his hips and recover. If he gets out of position, you could end up getting a big play off of him if you cut back on him as a running back. And then you think about just in terms of the passing game, will teams try, if he's playing backer, will you try to isolate him and attack him with these tight ends and whether it's an H-back tight end, whatever, those shake routes, the kind of, those double move and delayed routes that we see from the tight end position that could get him to flip, open his hips, open the gate one direction, cross his face. Now he got to recover. And by the time he recovers, that guy's open in the middle of the field. I think that's where, from a ceiling standpoint for me as a linebacker, I think his ceiling is good, not elite. I don't think he'll be I don't think he projects as an elite linebacker. I think he projects as still a really good linebacker, talented linebacker, but there's some physical rotational limitations that I've seen on tape.
Yeah, I think with him, so I agree with your synopsis, right? I think also with unfolding the linebacker position, we also have to understand that there are different ways to potentially get it done and unfolding a lot, because the linebacker position, I feel like is a position where it's disrespected and slashly disregarded and honestly not really well dissected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I agree with what you're saying. And I think what you're saying is on par with a linebacker like Fred Warner, right? In that capacity, like a guy that can just flat out do it all, right? Like and I think what you're talking about, right? Just the ability to simply redirect, right? Plant and redirect, boom, fast flow, okay, cut back, plant, redirect, right? Those type of things. I think where I could see him falling in a lane of, and we gotta have to go check the statistics of this. What about a Demario Davis, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
You kind of get what I'm saying? Like I think Demario Davis, I think peak point of CJ Mosley, right? Like when he was playing really good football. And it's just because they're going to get the job done in a different way. I view Arvell Reese as a linebacker that you said, like the sideline to sideline, he has the closing speed to it.
Yeah,
but the movement is a little bit different in the sense of the fact of he's probably always going to be like attacking on a downhill trajectory, right? Like even moving sideline to sideline, it'll be in a downhill trajectory. That's when he's best, right? Closing to the ball carrier. So I agree with you. I think with that being said, I think that's why I would probably put him more in the bracket of Demario Davis or CJ Mosley. I'm trying to think of other like big linebackers, right? That are like C gap to C gap explosive guys, right? Downhill. That's what I'm kind of seeing. DP, I wanted to get into this. The pass rush repertoire, I think there needs to be a lot of development in that regard, because some of his sacks is based off of, him potentially blitzing from depth, right? Or, you could say twists and stunts and things like that. It's based off of him, in my opinion, being a really good athlete, like being a freakishly good athlete, having strength, having explosiveness, having high motor, and then going like just kind of letting them loose, right? I think that's where some of his sacks are. Unfortunately, just in his career, I don't know how many pass rush snaps, and maybe you have that on him, like what true pass rushes that he has, as a pass rusher, right? And I feel like
I got it right here. It's 100 since 2024 when he was, he's really started getting on the field. 138 total pass rush snaps for the Ohio State defense.
Yeah, and that's not many. That's not a lot at all, right? When you talk about 130, like expanded over a game, teams throw the ball 40 times in one football game, right? So you get what I'm saying? Like that's not many rushing this. So I think whoever gets his hands on him it's a concern as far as what's its ceiling going to be, but it's actually a fun thing, should be, for the coach that gets him, right? Like, okay, cool, let me show you all of these different pass rush moves, right? So when I trigger you, you can go, because like I said, I think linebacker and Matt Patricia, and you just go all the way back to New England, right? They're used to these. I'm about to name us some more names, and I'm glad we went there. The Brandon Spikes, the High Towers, right? Like all of these different linebackers. I think if you think about those guys, that's how they utilized Arvell Reese in this capacity, and just being a big body that attacks downhill, and even from the pass rushing ability.
And I mean, when you brought up, Dante Hightower, that was a guy I wanted to see them utilize him more as. You know what I mean? Expect more Patriots Hightower than like just pure Bama, because Dante was kind of a versatile guy anyway. He was 6'2", 265 and everything. But like I wanted to see them let him rush the passer more, because to me that's where his high, and I'm gonna get into that in the next topic. His ceiling is high as an edge rusher. That 6'4", if you, well, hey, you know what? Let's add 5 more pounds to the frame. Let's get you to 250, 6'4", 250 with the play strength he already has. You know what I mean? And the burst and athleticism and all the tools to be a high-end pass rusher are absolutely there. Now it's all about just the maturation and development with time on task. Because again, just to repeat it for those who didn't catch it the first time, Arvell Reese has rushed the passer 138 times since 2024. Not in a year, guys. In 2 years, because he only had 119 pass rush snaps this year. Matt Patricia played him more off ball, and he just flashed that ability to let him rush.
It was delayed blitzes. It was green dogs. It was, just different. And even when he was lined up on the edge, you might get a twist or a stunt. So it wasn't even a true pass rush, right? Rep, I guess you can say at the end of the day. And I think that's what
a few of those. He only has a few of those.
Yep. I agree with that. I agree. And I think that's what's going to make this situation fun for Arvell Reese. And I think it's going to be like for him and his success in the NFL, DP is going to be so much about landing spot, right? And what the coach does for him to be able to reach his peak point. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's get into the draft grade, right? Which grade did we give Arvell Reese and which NFL comps do we have for him? We'll discuss that coming up next.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every single deduction. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it for you. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to living your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. 6'4", 245-pound linebacker / edge defender for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Arvell Reese. Time to explain our grades and give you the NFL comps. Keith, what's your grade for Arvell Reese?
Yeah, I gave him an 87 and a half. 87 and a half, and I was like, okay, do I go with the projection part, right, and put him as a rare prospect, or do I go with what he is, right? And I leaned more 80% of what he is, and then the 20% of what he can become, right? And that's what the 87 and a half. And in this draft class, he's still going to finish top 3 for me. I just don't. I'm not sure if I'm going to have and let me hesitate to say this, but I don't think I'm gonna have a rare like a rare caliber player in this draft. I'm going to have Pro Bowl calibers, but I don't know if I'm going to have like a rare prospect. And on average, you only get 3 of those guys a year, right? So there's not many of those. So I have him. He's going to finish right up there with the cream of the crop, the top of the draft class. I put him at the 87 and a half, just because we talked about the pass rush reps. That's only 130 reps, right? Like in that part still needs to be unfolded. And to our listeners and understanding, it's like, okay, well, that's still 130 instances. And it's like, not really, right? Like when we're trying to evaluate these guys, even putting a pass rush rep into context, what's going on? Is he getting chip block on that pass rush, right? Like to where it's not a true one-on-one. Did the quarterback get the ball out quickly, right? Was it a 3-step drop and get it out, and then you weren't even to see him, you wasn't able to see him truly get into his bag all the way, right? And pull out all of the different hand counters and things like that. So even in context of that, there's still so much more to be kind of developed and uncovered, right, for Arvell Reese. So I gave him an 87 and a half. Now my comp for him, my comp is a projection to the pass rush side. And I you know what, I think we should do an Arvell Reese episode again post combine.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
what I want to do is I kind of want to go both ways with the pure linebacker projection and the pure edge rusher.
Like
so my comp for him as an edge rusher DP, I went with Josh Allen-Hines, the edge rusher from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're very comparable from a height weight perspective, right? But also to our listeners, as we've been doing these episodes, right? You listen to us, and what do I always like talking about? Career trajectory, right? What does their careers look like? And I'm trying to find, give me 1 second. Here we go. Career trajectory, right? Now look at Josh Allen-Hines since he's entered the NFL, right? 2019, he had 10.5 sacks. 2020, injured, I believe. He only played 8 games, right? But 2021, he had 7.5 sacks. 2022, 7 sacks. 2023 had explosive year with 17.5 sacks. 2024 was 8. 2025 was 8 sacks. But this is a guy that is versatile along that line of along the line of scrimmage as far as alignments and within the defense, and does a lot of different things. I thought that was a good comp because I think they're probably very similar athletically too. Just from that perspective. So that's why I went with a guy that can, live in that Pro Bowl-esque type range, can have some explosive years depending on situations. But like we said, it depends on where they go, who's the coordinator, and how they utilize them.
I like that. That's a name that I didn't think about, but I like how how you tied it together, how that fits. Keith, for me, I gave him a some of it's I got some projection baked in there because I'm projecting him to. I think he's going to play a lot more edge than just stack backer in the NFL. I have him at a 9.0 for us, like Pro Bowl player, top 10 type of talent. Yep. I got him there. I think watch him as a linebacker, highly effective, high impact player. One thing he's definitely going to do. If your run defense is a little soft, it's going to harden up. It's going to toughen up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was immediately thinking about the Cowboys and the Bengals, right? I'm like, hey, this is the type of guy, and that's what I'm talking about, right? When we're talking about last segment from stylistically perspective, you might need a thumper, right? You might need somebody that's just going to take.
You need somebody with some attitude, and he's going to bring a lot of that attitude to your defense. Because I don't think I've seen his face. I've seen him on the field, seen with his helmet. I don't think I've ever seen him smile. Like, he looks like just a naturally between the lines. He might be a very jovial guy off the field, but once he steps on the gridiron, he looks like he's pissed off all the time. Which for a linebacker or a defensive player, I like that. I want you angry all the time. All right, I want you angry. I want you crazy, just a little bit. But I get my 9. Like I said, I baked in some of that projection. I think Keith, from a comp standpoint, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I know. I have to do it.
Drum roll. We need a drum roll.
I'm looking at Micah Parsons and how I'm going to utilize him.
Okay.
I'm looking at Micah and how, because I was like, hold on, what did Micah come in as? Micah was 6'3", 1/8, 246 pounds. I think when he came into the league, leaving Penn State, and we know how athletic Micah is. We know how and he's gotten heavier. He's added more weight to his frame to play that kind of true edge rusher role and defensive end role and everything. When I look at Arvell Reese, and I think back to Micah, I'm like, Micah was really good on first and second downs playing at that linebacker spot. And then it was like, hey, once guys got hurt and they realized we can rush you. Yeah. And I remember looking at his true actual rush attempts in terms of Arvell Reese. Like the writing is on the wall, I guess you could say, in terms of if you're a defensive line coach, you're like, yeah, let me get my hands on him. And hey, DC linebacker coach, I hear you. I need training camp with him because I'm gonna get him right. Because you see the long arm and speed to power conversion. He's got that bull in the china shop type of power and chaoticness to his rush. But then also he flashes that long arm to the club, like clubbing that outside hand and clearing the shoulder. He has a nice little dip and bend around the edge as well. And then, of course, with that closing burst, he can close onto the quarterback with immense quickness. So I think for me, Keith, I'm going to go with Micah Parsons, where you can utilize him early on if you want as that kind of hybrid. Hey, first and second down, because I think it was the Miami game against the Hurricanes. They started letting him rush. And then they start getting killed by Mark Fletcher in the run game. Then they said, well, we got to pull you off the line of scrimmage and play you at linebacker. And I'm like, man, like that. I wanted to see him get a full game rushing. And then also you get that, I'm not going to lie, a team I would love to see trade up for him, Keith. I know they're not going to do it. I would love to see the Baltimore Ravens, like, send some picks, go get him. Like, he's the type of guy they've been missing. Because when you want to go to those kind of bare fronts, those 5-man defensive line fronts, and he's playing that walk-up Sam backer off the edge, and you got him up against a tight end, I'm taking Arvell Reese in one-on-one run blocking situations against most tight ends in the league. Like, I've watched him against tackles and dominate them. I think this is a highly impactful player that has a very, very high ceiling. I think if you let him mature as a pass rusher, you're looking at a double-digit sack guy who also can play stack backer and probably get you 80 to 100 tackles as well. He's just a fantastic project, I would say.
No, I agree, DP. And I think overall, our overarching message is that we know the floor for Arvell Reese, and it's high. The floor for Arvell Reese is high. Yeah. Now, the ceiling for Arvell Reese is going to be dependent on where he goes and where they place him, right, overall. But this is a dynamic young man, athlete, fluid mover, explosive, things like that I'm excited to see play in the NFL. Honestly, I'm excited to see the rest of this draft process because as much as he's talked about, we haven't seen him much, right? Like just, just social media, just any type of interviews, anything like that. We're finally going to get that opportunity coming up here fairly soon. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're breaking down RB1 Jeremiah Love. I don't know the name. We're going to break down his film, we broke down his film. We watched the film. We're going to give you the notes, the pros, the cons, explain the grade, and give you the comps on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.